session today is to look at slings and products popular within the care home environment. We've got a very helpful poster which we've devised that will help you with selecting a range if you need to after the session. But I'll ask Alice just to bring this up first so that we can look at all the different products. There's many, and we're not going to cover all of them, but certainly it'll give you an idea what's about when the session's finished. So if we've just, and this is, we can email this to you, it's divided up into styles. So for example, the first line are straight leg sling options, which I will explain, and they all work in a similar way and they're applied in a similar way, and they have a specific use. Then the second row are toileting sling options. So again, all slightly different, but will give you the access that's required for hygiene transfers. Then we've got deluxe legs, different style of sling, different principle of leg application. And then there's the hammock family there, which are slightly different, hammock and amputee styles for amputees or other situations where you need to hammock the legs. Then there's the Standaid range. Slings for clip type hoists if you have a clip situation. Bariatric products may not be relevant, but there's a range there. And then accessories, so various accessories to help with different scenarios, handling, repositioning, slide sheets, things like that. So it's a very useful poster, which you're welcome to at the end. But if we just come back to me, please, Alice. And we'll start with looking at a couple of sling shapes. So standard sling shapes when you would use them. The most popular style will be the fast fit. So the fast fit sling. And if you're new to these sessions, we do talk about slings in great detail, but I will remind you if you haven't viewed before, just so that you can understand slings. They're made incredibly well. Everything on this sling has been carefully sourced so that you can be reassured that it's suitable and fit for purpose. The type of fabric, the binding, the webbing, threads, the stitches per inch are all calibrated to ensure that you have the correct safe working load. Standard slings have a safe working load of 220, which is 35 stone. And that's even the small sizes up to extra large. Same sort of safe working load, because everything on here has been tested. It's been tested to in excess of that strength. The labelling is very important. So it's important that you can read the label. It must be legible. Silvalea have woven labels now, which means they won't wash out. But if you can't read the safety instructions, then it will contravene the loader regulations. So you must always encourage carers to check that the sling label is legible, check for any safety instructions, check that it's the right sling for that individual, it matches what's on the care plan, the right size, the right style, and the right pickup points are used. So labels are really important. They will have everything that's needed to highlight any safety implications, the correct hoist, the safe working load, the size, the washing. Laundering is important, and it needs to be done correctly to lengthen the life of the product. We encourage a non-biological or non-bleaching detergent. We often get slings back that we can tell they've been washed in a strong biological powder that has bleaching agents within, because the binding fades and there's deterioration. So, you know, it is important. Drying, low tumble dry. Some fabrics we recommend no tumble dry. So always check what's on that label. The sizing is denoted by the colour. Most companies will have the same small, medium and large. Small is red, medium is yellow, green is large. When they get bigger or smaller, it may vary, but we've also got colour-coded handle to help as well. There is a unique serial number to all the slings for traceability and a date stamp. So everything on here is woven and should have a good long life. I'm going to put this on Judith, who's my assistant today, just so we can just look at the sling. As I said, it's a standard sling, probably the first full body sling that's used. It's very popular and it's easy to put on. Of course, we're showing it in a nice easy chair, and we know that's not always the case. And Judith's going to be helpful and compliant. The key thing is always to get the sling to the base of the spine. So get the sling down here, low as possible, so that you can get the leg sections around fully the femur. So it's really important to get them down. There's lots of things that will help you if you're struggling to get the sling down. Slide sheets or mitts. Slide sheet mitts are very useful to help if you've got something stuck. Ease it, smooth it under the legs. They will really help with smoothing out any ruckles. Of course, if your patient can help transfer their weight to get the leg sections in, then that's really helpful. Or if you can raise the legs. But applying the sling with the leg sections towards the knee. So as long as you've got the sling down as far as possible, bring the leg sections towards the back of the knee. If you fit it too far back, the sling's going to be mid or higher up towards the groin, and it'll bite in then. So we can always tell if it's not fitting properly, but get it as low as possible. Don't worry about lining up the top of the sling. That will sort itself out when the hoist takes up the slack. So the key thing is to get the sling down as far as possible. There are colour-coded loops. So to determine, which position to start with, we cross the legs. That will keep the aperture from splaying too much. But if we don't cross the legs, it will open up that aperture and then you're vulnerable to slipping through. So the standard way is to cross the legs. And we're going to do short shoulder, long leg application. On here it's red and the outer one. Much use helping. And then important to just take up the slack. Don't go too far. Take up the slack, and then we can check that we've got everything attached. We've not got it caught around the chair. If you're applying it on the bed, then you either need to have a profiling bed to help sit up or a head support. So we'll be mindful of the head if you haven't got a head support on the sling. So as I said, it's a standard sling, standard application. It is going to give Judith full body support. So full body support here. So if she's got poor or reduced tone, then the sling will help to support her. Leg support here. There is an aperture, so there is enough access there to do a hygiene transfer, but clothing, of course, would have to be removed. So, you can carry out hygiene transfers with full body slings, as long as they've got a divided leg section. So very straightforward. It's a standard sling. I would say always use it for standard situations, standard compliance scenarios. If you've got somebody that's a little bit wriggly or extends, then this section of the leg will bite into the groin. So it's not such a great style. So, we'll think about a different one, but for a standard transfer, it's fine. The other thing that can happen is that as the leg section comes through and up to the hoist, it can slightly pull and externally rotate the hip. So if you're dealing with someone with painful joints, arthritis, that will impact and cause them more discomfort. So it's very subtle, but you can see it will pull through here. As it goes up, it can slightly do that. So if we have that situation, we'll look at a different style. So just think about this for your standard situations. We can add things to it. So if you need a head support, the head support option would look like this. This is the standard sling and it's in mesh. Hopefully you can see there's little holes in this. Mesh usually used for bathing, so the water would drain through. However, I know people do use the poly. It's fine, but you just need to put more towels down. The mesh here, it's got a head support on, so it's exactly the same. Just to show you around the side here. That it works exactly the same. Just going down a bit, sorry, Jude. It looks the same, but it's got this head support. It's an arched head support with bones in. These are removable. They need to be taken out when you're laundering the sling. And if you don't like them because they're too stiff, then the sling will work without, because we've got head support tapes. So the head support tapes link through the shoulder tape. Just put that up there. And you've got a slider. So the slider then, head back a little bit, Jude. That's it. So you would support the head and adjust the slider accordingly. So it is possible to have the head support there. Sometimes the head supports are a bit too much and they can force the head forward. So what is quite nice is the neck roll. So a separate accessory that just nestles in the neck like that. Quite nice if you've got someone that leans to the side, so you can move it to the side. The soft foam toweling covered neck roll. It's got sliders, so that what you do is apply it to the shoulder tape and fix it on, and then adjust it. Once it's in place, you can leave it in place, but it would nestle in the neck like that. Ju puts her neck back. So rather than have a full head support that can do that, then you might prefer that. It can be interchangeable and more supportive and comfortable. So that's the neck roll. The other additional part would be a waist support. The waist supports can be added. You want to just ensure the sling stays in place. Then we can fix in a waist support that will be fitted into a channel at the back, and it can be fitted in with a little clunk click at the waist or chest. If you've got someone that's got a bit of movement, you might want it a bit higher, under the bust for a lady or on the chest for a gentleman, or waist. It's dependent on where you would prefer it, but that can be added to the standard style. So very standard, but with things we can add on to make it a little bit more suitable. So that's the fast fit. Remembering it's the standard shape, use it for standard situations. So if we've got something a little bit more, someone with more complex needs, we can look at the other styles. What first one I would suggest and look at would be the next, Jude, the deluxe. So this is the universal deluxe. It is a different shape. It's very square. Different shape principle of leg. But again, it's got a divided leg, so we can apply it in the chair. Getting it to base of spine as far as possible. And then you wrap each leg section around the femur. So this wraps over underneath and then like that. And then we connect the legs together with this modesty strap. Keep the legs together. Then the outside tape, longer outside tape, feeds through the inner one. More fiddly, but this then will give you an outside pickup. So compared to the first style, you've got an outside pickup. It won't rotate the hip and it will support much better the leg from the outside. So it's much more comfortable. If you're looking at someone with pain, just hook it up, short shoulder, long leg. Again, it is a full body sling. It's going to give full body support. So if someone needs full support, but because of this leg section, it will give full femur support. So if you've got someone with a bit more movement, a bit wrigglier, well done, Jude, then it's individual control of those leg paddles because of the way they're constructed there. So much more comfortable, as I said. Access, still small access for hygiene transfers if needed here. So we still can carry out hygiene transfer. Again, you can have it in the mesh with a head support, neck roll, and waist and chest strap if needed. It is a style that's been often used successfully with long limb amputations. So if you've got a long limb, and I mean knee and below, then the residual part will rest within that paddle, so within this leg paddle. With amputees, if the residual leg is very short, there's no weight to it. So because there's no weight, it can rise up and then slip back through the aperture. So we need to be mindful of that if you're looking at, short amputations. But this one has been used. Welcome to new viewers. If you wouldn't mind turning your microphone off, please. As the session is being recorded, I'm grateful. Thank you. This is a very square shape sling, and as such, it can actually be used in a different way. And we will show you. It just stands up. You can then lay each leg on top of each other. And if you feed the outer leg tape through, or the longer leg thread tape through, want to just sit back down, then it will pick up in a hammock style. So often, right, like I said, okay, it's on the chair then. If you've got someone that wears a skirt or a dress, doesn't like the divided leg pickup, then it might be an option. It will close the legs together, so you need to be mindful of that. And also you're going to be very vulnerable. So if you have a wriggler, I've just reclined slightly more so that Jude's not going to topple forward. So that it's bucketing her a bit more, so that she's not going to be too far forward. But we can add something to it. If you think you're going to use it in this way, then we could perhaps put a chest strap just to keep them in place. But it is possible. When you're using it in this way, though, it will close the knees together. So just be mindful if you've got pressure at the knee, then it might add to that. So just be careful of that. So this is the Fast Fit Deluxe, which is the deluxe shaped leg. So it has different shaped leg to the first one. It picks up from the outside. But one of the most popular deluxe shape slings is the in-situ deluxe. And that is, yeah, this shape. So slightly different shape. Julie's just showing, so same principle of leg, but they've got slightly more angled legs on this one. So it makes it less bulky. It is a divided leg, although this comes with a head support as standard, so you can apply it on the bed and just take it down to the back. Take the leg panels around. Now, things that are intended to be left in for extended periods have to be carefully assessed for. So even though the sling is an in-situ sling or a leave-in sling or an all-day sling, it doesn't mean to say you can just put it on and leave it. You really have to work out whether it's suitable, whether it's appropriate. But, working that out with the team will then, you can determine if it's going to be the right style, the right size, how it's applied, but we can sort of help with different options. This is the deluxe leg. So the deluxe leg will enable you to still carry out hygiene transfer, but there is going to be an aperture. So we need to be mindful of that. So just thinking about that, we have other options as well. But the leg paddles wrap around and connect together. And then the outside tape feeds through. I'll just put this on. So our in-situ slings have been kept, the fabric has been carefully sourced. Yellow, carefully sourced so that, they've got some give, so that body will naturally then fall within the fabric. It hugs the contours of the body. It's very smooth. We don't put handles on. We avoid as many seams as possible. Make sure we've got it on you, okay? Yeah. So it is the deluxe shape, as we've seen. The leg paddles wrap around the femur and pick up from the outside, so that's one good thing. Support the femur there. This fabric, you can see this fabric. This is a fine mesh called a super fine, which has a natural stretch, so will hug curvatures really well. It has Coolmax within the properties of the fabric, which will help to wick away moisture. So if you've got someone that has temperature control issues, then this is quite a good fabric to help with that. The single layer Superfine has a weight limit of 10 stone, which is 64 kilograms, or we can double layer it to take it to 220, which is 35 stone. The reason we double layer it is because of the stretch. So it has a lot of give. And if we don't double layer it, it will just stretch and stretch if we put heavier weight in. So we would double layer that to give you strength there. It is a mesh, so it will be suitable for bathing as well, because the water will drain through. The other thing I've got on here is a loop. Now, I'll explain that because it's for an additional hip tape. So the hip tapes are an accessory that you can add, and they're separate like this. They've got a slider buckle. So when I get them on and get this to the right length, you then slide it and push that out the way to stop it sliding. The reason there's a little bar or a metal tab is that if I extend this fully, I've got some way of opening the loop again. But they just feed on here and not back on themselves. And then we have to apply this the right tension. So the idea is we tighten this to pick up simultaneously with the leg. At the moment, it's doing nothing. But what it does, it helps to pick up the hip. By doing that, it will help to distribute the weight and take pressure from behind the knee. So it's a really good addition to someone that has got pain, arthritis, osteoporosis, things like that. It will really help to distribute the weight and lift the bottom. It makes a massive difference, and it works really well on this style. So you can see, you just adjust it. I just have to lower Judith down to tighten it up a bit more. Don't have it too tight because it will force the hips forward, but certainly just get the setting right, and that will help. Also good if you've got asymmetrical shapes and you need to adjust asymmetrically. A good way of doing it is by using hip tapes. So if you've got someone that's leaning out and you want to try and do that, then the hip tape option is good. So quite good for problem solving like that. So that is the in-situ deluxe in the superfine. So superfine double layer will take it up to 220. But the third fabric is Superfine Plus, which is the black spacer fabric. This is a black spacer, thicker. It's still a mesh, still can be used for bathing, but it is a thicker. It will compress down, but it will be thicker. And that has a 220 weight limit on. So there's three options. So once you've worked out your style, then there's three options of fabric. All of this is detailed on the website and on the poster, so you won't be able to, you don't need to worry. But if in doubt, you just need to call us. So those are the in-situ options. Let me just take Judith down. I will bring in another style of in-situ, which I'll bring in one moment. So if you want a sling to leave in without an aperture, then we can offer a different style. Recline. And this is one option. I've got it on a different horse. So this is set up for a double amputee scenario. The sling is all in one. It's called an in-situ recline. It's an oblong shaped sling. So it needs to be applied on the bed. It's difficult to get on the chair to get it under the bottom, but very straightforward. It has a little pommel between the legs here, and that will help to lift the middle to prevent the knees from rolling in. So it lifts up that middle area. So it helps, you know, to prevent that rolling. This one is in Superfine Plus, and I've also got the hip tape on. We can add head-to-head support, waist support, but good for all scenarios, but particularly good for amputees, high or through hips in situations where you need to just pick them up in like a seat situation. So that's predominantly why this one is so popular. But it can have an aperture. So if you need to have one for toileting or hygiene, we can insert an aperture there, which could be possible. Then you have to apply it when needed for toileting situations. So that's the option of the in-situ recline. If you're looking at the website later. There is a hybrid one. Do you want me to show that one? So if you want the leg paddles, the nice leg paddles, because you've got someone a bit active, but you need it smooth like that, then we do a combination. It's called the Recline Deluxe. So it'll be on the poster. And if you need to look on the website in more detail, it's got a very little aperture just to get it through, but it's very smooth underneath the legs. And it has those paddles that wrap around the femur here. So again, just look at the details. So I'm mindful of time. Don't want to go into too much detail there. So that's the in-situ. I will briefly talk about, I'll just put that back, Jude, thank you. Toileting slings, because we know how important it is to carry out an independent high toilet transfer. And this is our standard one. Very standard. There's not much to it, so it's really important that it's assessed for correctly and that it's suitable. We do have a Velcro and a clump click fastening. Judith, would you mind holding that, please? Double security there. And if it's not in use, encourage closure of the Velcro because it will damage a lot if it's left open. The legs are slightly shaped here, so a bit of scalloping, which means you can get more access if we need to there. And the waistband is stitched as far as possible to the widest point, which really does help to give extra support. But if we see on the view dear, it's easy to put on. I mean, carers love these because you can just slide it round there, put it round. You haven't got to struggle to get the sling down to the base because it's just going to the belt line there. Leg sections, again, wrap them toward the back of the knee there and cross them over. Just hook it up. We've got to go on green. Arms are on the outside. There's padding on this one. Some have padding, some don't. The arms are intended to go on the outside. And you'll see the access it gives. Lots of area to get to clothing. So obviously loose clothing, still quite tricky to remove clothing within this one, but good access to the belt line there. As you can see, this is why it's so highly requested. But the issue we've got is if it's not put on properly, or it's not, or the tone is not there, then this can happen. You may have seen this, and you've still got your patient saying it's fine because it still maintains a bit more dignity and independence, but it's not suitable. It's not right. So I will give you a couple of tips just to help lengthen the life of this style, and that's just by applying it slightly differently. And we'll share the tips. Let's just start again. So there's 3 tips to remember. The first one is to position the belt at the waist. It's a waist support, not a chest support. It's a waist support. It's got to be fitted low, firmly, and under the bust of the lady. So it's very important it's fitted low and firm. Then fasten the clump clip as firmly as possible. So that's the first thing. So apply it again. Green. The second tip is as you take up the slack, generally, and with most people, they're sat in their chair. As the slack's taken up, their body will naturally thin out and elongate. At that point, the waist support loosens off. So then you need to pull on the webbing to keep it down and in place. The whole thing is to keep that sling down and that belt low. So you just take up the slack and you just tighten it. There you go, it's loosened off. So can you see now, Judith, can you pull through?
No something.
No, something, bring your knees up.
Tight.
And just by doing that, will then give you extended use of that. And the third point is if it's still slightly slumping, then it might be useful to go down a size. Often it's the sizing, and with toilet slings, we suggest that you look at a smaller size. So it will give you a few little helpful tips just to follow those. If you still need to. If you've tried all that, then sadly sometimes the tone is so poor that you need to look at something else. So, we'll have to look at other options. We do have within our range the Continental, we called that one, low back and low convenience. These are made in quite rigid fabric. It's quite firm polyester, structured polyester, but with foam to the centre here and here. So much deeper and foam to the legs. So we'll give a lot more support. It's quite a supportive toilet sling. Let me just show you round Judith. I'm going to put it to stand up and Joe. So if we just see from the back, the access. So that's the access you get from that belt line there, but much deeper in the back.
It's very supportive.
Yeah, it's supportive. And the other thing with this one is the waist support. So the waist support on this range is elasticated. So it won't loosen off like the other standard version. So you just stretch it round. It's also removable. So you can take it out So if you need a small sling but a medium belt, then we can interchange sizes without any trouble. So it just slides through. You can just slide it through there. Goes through there. So, and I would say that's like the next option in hygiene slings. Is if you can't use the standard one, then look at the Continental. It's called the Continental Low Convenience. The Continental slings are ones that are comparable to the Continental companies, that they like the structured fabric. The fabric has got this nice sheen, so it's quite easy to get down in a tighter chair. So quite a good fabric. This one is the low convenience, arms on the outside to help convenience, and the low back version is slightly higher. That round, Judith. So it enables you to have your arms on the inside. So it comes around the shoulders, slightly higher. So that's the low back. So if you want the sling to enable the arms to come on the inside, because, for example, you may have someone with painful shoulders, then we could use that. But the key thing is, in that situation, is to check your hoist. So if you've got someone that's got really painful joints, then you need to make sure the hoist spreader bar is wider than them. Because whatever you put on that hoist, then it's denoted by the width of that spreader bar. So if you take the shoulder straps to a narrow one, it's going to protract the shoulders and cause extra pain. So always check. This spreader bar is quite narrow because for Judith, but you know, standard ones can be wider. But if you're using this on a bigger person, it will naturally then envelop them and protract their shoulders. So it's really important to always check the hoist and suitability. For very complex scenarios, it may be that we need to look at a different style. So those are the slings. There's lots of accessories. We've got, let me just show you some of the Standaids. So Standaids are help stand. It's a stand aid, not a sling, but there are various ones. This one is very elasticated. It wraps around very firmly and supported. It wraps around like that. Then we have the bar. This is just a standard one that is a big thick band. It all depends on the different individuals, what you're used to, where you need the extra support. So we do have higher back support. Some have got rigid foaming. This one's just elasticated. This has got thick foaming.
This one's quite nice because it is corseted around, so it's rather elastic. So it is sort of.
It does, yes, it is much more comfortable. So yeah, this is the Silvalea one. If you look at that, but it has got this stretchy section here. You can see we put it out. That really wraps around the trunk, the back.
And the non-slip.
Yeah, and non-slip, which helps to prevent slipping on clothing and
riding up.
Yeah. So the Standaid ones, there's a mixture, there's a variety of them. So always have a look. For extra information on the website.
Double clip as well.
Oh yes, double clip. But it is important that when using a Standaid, you've got some weight bearing, because it is a stand aid to help standing. So those are those. We have a little, this might be of interest, a little jacket, and this is called the Walk Assist, and it's worn like a little waistcoat, and it was created for a youngster who just needed some help with stability. They had sort of unpredictable movement. It's a mesh jacket. It's got handles positioned and a little expander here to help if you're wearing it over thicker jumpers or outer clothing. But it's designed to steady and guide rather than grabbing at Judith's arms or her clothing. then we've got these little handles positioned just to steady her.
I suppose if you're
Yeah.
going on a day trip or on a coach or something,
Yeah.
it's rather nice.
So very simple, but could be quite useful for various situations. We've got loads of other things that are useful. We did cover slide sheets, the slide mitt. The mitts are very useful to have in a kit. As I said, if you've got trouble just getting the sling down, then or underneath legs, slide sheets are great. Various ones of those. Turning discs. Turning discs are useful for just turning or in a chair. If you're in a chair or on a bed, you need to turn to get the legs up, then this sort of thing will help with that by turning. There are floor ones that can help you. Do you want to sit down here? And if we're standing, Jude, and we need to turn her just to then sit her into a wheelchair, then very easy. They turn very well. There's various sizes of those, thank you. So lots of different accessories. I'm just going to ask Alice. Alice, are you able to bring up? I'm just thinking of something that would be useful. It's the Bradbury Turner. I'm throwing her in this, but for you can find me the Bradbury. Sorry, in accessories. And I can show you on the website. This is a turning device and very simple to help turning in bed for changing, repositioning, and it just wraps one side round the bed. Have you got other photographs there? Do you secure one side to the base of the bed and it can slide in and out just so that you can help to turn. But there's lots of information there. So every product we've got has a data sheet that will give you all the information you need, sizing, instructions, measurements that are required. If we go back, sorry, Alice, to throw you into this, can you go back to the fast fit? So we just look at the very first sling on the website, the first one we saw. So this is all the information that's there to help you choose. It gives you good images and the fabric options. And then the full data sheet underneath will help with codes, measurements, sling dimensions, things like that. So certainly we're trying to give you as much information as possible to help with correct sizing, etc. There's little videos of fitting as well on the website too. Thanks, Alice. So if we can just come back, I'll just quickly talk about sizing. Jude, if you wouldn't mind. So measuring is always very tricky and it can vary between the different sling shapes. It's a bit like clothing. Sometimes they're generous, sometimes they're quite discreet and smaller. So each sling will have its own individual sizing guide. And generally we ask for the shoulder circumference. And this is around shoulders. Not too tight. And just a bit down from the top. So the fullness of the arm needs to be taken into account there because it's narrower at the top and it will then result in a smaller sling. So that will denote the width. And the sling is taken to, it needs to have a couple of centimetres either side so that it's comfortable and you're within it, not too big, otherwise you'll sink back, and not too skimpy. So, the width of the sling is really important.
The width again, it's a wide tape measure.
Oh,
yes.
Put it on me, sorry if it's white. So we just go slightly down from the top of the shoulders.
You can sit
there. And arms in midline. So if you're doing it in the bed and you've got someone that's, moving all over the place, try and bring their arms in midline to give you a better measurement. And if you've got someone that's very curled up, again, you know, if they're going to open up when they're hoisted, you need to make sure we've got it, the measurement with their arms in a good natural position. And then, thanks Jude, the back measurement is from the knobbly bit behind the neck there to the knobbly bit at the base of spine. So it's C7 down to the base. So base here, top of the bottom there, not right underneath, so it's the base of spine. So that will give us the length of the back. Some of the other styles will ask for underarm to waist for like toileting slings or harnesses. And if you've got the recline, so they're all in one, so it'd have to, the measurements required round underneath to the knee, with the knee bent, because that's how you would hoist. So it's from C7 around the buttock, under the knee. So that would have to be taken probably on the bed. Yeah. So if in doubt, though, you'd have to just check. We've got lots of ways to support you. We do lots of sessions like this, individual sessions on certain subjects. We can cover whatever's needed. We will do e-assessments, whereby we'll come to you in this way, in this virtual way, and help see the situation and help with suggestions. We do have some dealers throughout the country that will come out. You just need to tell us where you are and we'll find the most suitable one. There's a few things that once we establish what you need, we can possibly send for trial. Again, you just have to talk to us, we'd go through it, we'd look at the situation. But please, you know, keep in touch. The website's really helpful. The customer service email address is the one to use, and they will certainly help with any queries. But in a very quick way, I think I've done everything I wanted to cover, but there's time if anyone's got a particular style they want me to cover, if they could just drop a little message to Alice, we can have a look at. Or if there's anything else, any questions you want me to answer, then I'm very happy to do so.
Mandy, just a very quick question. We've got Abby asking about a sling for her client who's around 18 stone. I explained that the in-situ sling's got 35 stone. Abby's just said, however, due to her size and spread, I feel in-situ slings wouldn't offer much access for toileting. She currently has a deluxe leg in-situ sling. Her next goal is to access her bariatric commode. Would you be able to offer some further advice, please?
So tell me, Alice, Abby, are you using an in-situ deluxe, but you need more access? Is that the question?
That's right, yeah.
Okay. It's very difficult because the in-situ deluxe will give enough aperture. We don't want it too big because otherwise, if you're using a full body sling, it's because they need that support. So if the aperture is too big, then they're going to slump through. So, you know, the other option is to have the recline with an aperture built in, so we can cut it away to the measurement you need. So that would give more support, but have an aperture big enough. But certainly with sort of disproportionate body shapes, it may be that we need to custom make something and tailor it to their needs. But we are very mindful not to have too big an aperture, particularly if it's been left in place, because you've got a lot of binding then, and you need to just monitor for any signs of any pressure and things like that. So if you want to have further discussions, we can go further with that after the session. Anything else, Alice?
No, that's everything. Thanks, Mandy.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody. As I said, we can get this little poster to you. I think Alice will, or my colleague will email out a little form. If you can kindly fill that in, we will send you the poster. As I said, it's got lots of options for you. Certainly it will, you know, give you an idea of what's available. Was that another question, Alice? I thought I saw something pop up.
Yep, it is. Can you demonstrate a groin to point of amputation measurement, please?
Okay, so for amputees, let me bring the model in. It might be easier to show on this. So certainly we've got a really comprehensive form, but for amputees, we ask for a couple of extra measurements. And basically it's base of spine. I'll have that yellow one. Done on the bed, on their side. Base of spine around the buttock to the end of the amputation. Hopefully you can see that. To the end of the amputation, wherever that is. So that's base of spine around the buttock, always the fullness of the buttock, not a straight leg, because then that makes the leg paddle on the sling short. So it's got to be around the fullness of the bottom.
Recovery position would be better.
On the side, and the recovery is perfect. And then to the point of amputation. In addition, to double check the length of that paddle, we would ask for groin to point of amputation. So like a trouser inside leg measurement. So inside here to the point, you can see that, change hands there. So both measurements would be asked, unless you've got a long limb, then you know it's below the knee, it's fine. But when, as I said, when they get shorter, I don't know how we work this out, but we say 27 centimetres. So from the groin to point of amputation, if it's 27 centimetres and less, then we'll do a specialised sling. If it's 27 centimetres and above, you may get away with the standard. So there's a bit of a measurement there. It's probably the depth, the average depth of these paddles. But if in doubt, we can do the assessment and help you. But hopefully that will help. We do an amputee session. So we cover all amputee scenarios from long limb to short limb, standard to complex situations. So there are other sessions specific to subjects like that. Specialised slings, amputees, in situ. So have a look on the website under training. There's a prospectus there. If you feel you'd like to join and have a bit more understanding, then please do. Any more, Alice?
No, that's all good. Thanks, Amanda.
Well, thank you very much. Hopefully it's been helpful. Thank you to Judith and Alice for helping, and hopefully we'll see you at future sessions. But thank you for your time and have a good afternoon. Thank you very much.